Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about systems. So I didn't think that I would actually want to talk about anything kind of businessy related, but I want to be really transparent about what it's like to be an entrepreneur. I decided to talk a little bit more transparently and honestly about the struggles that I go through in terms of scaling and growing and really just trying to figure everything out on my own. This year has been all about coming into my own and figuring out in which direction I want to grow. So I started off my sort of online presence career as a content creator. Didn't really have a direction in the beginning. It was really purely just me sharing my personal journey. Now that I'm 2.5 years in, I've definitely cultivated a different sense of what I would like to build when it comes to being online and building community. So I didn't have a plan necessarily at the beginning of this year. Obviously, due to COVID and everything going on in the world, I decided to take what I was doing offline in terms of in-person wellness events, community connection, all of that, and I decided to turn that into something that was virtual so that I could still feel really connected to my community and hopefully bring other people in as well. So earlier this year, I started a virtual wellness community called You Are Here. And it has definitely been so fun building something of my own up, and it's really under a specific infrastructure, and it's a membership community, so I know that I have to deliver certain things every single week. As opposed to when I was doing in-person events, I didn't really have that as a focus for me. It was something that I did on the side for fun, and it was something that I was really interested in, but I didn't really necessarily have a plan. When it comes to a membership community, there definitely needs to be a plan, and that in turn brings me to the topic of today of needing a better system that works for me. I will get back to that in a moment, but also I wanted to mention that this year I started a coaching business where I help clients overcome a lot of hurdles when it comes to stress, when it comes to burnout, and that's something that I have extreme personal connection to, so I definitely empathize with my clients that are going through that and all of the sort of underlying things that relate to burnout, such as imposter syndrome, such as perfectionism, such as all kinds of things that I will save for another video. But since I did start the coaching business, since I did also start doing some speaking engagements in terms of workshops for corporations and also workshops for my online community, and since also creating You Are Here, my virtual wellness community, and also creating content online for Just Dimple It, there is just a lot going on. So I needed a better system that would actually work for me. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through what I was doing just as a content creator and how I was managing everything to now the system that I'm using currently that I think is going to work for me. It's definitely a new process for me. I just wanted to get into the habit of using this platform before the new year so that when January comes, I'm ready to go and I have a system in place that works for me. I will likely make modifications and revisions to the system because it is a new process for me, but I'm really liking where it's going, and I'm going to walk you through how I set up my life situation. So this is my Trello board that I was using for content initially when it comes to social media content. But then as I started creating You Are Here content, coaching, information, all of that, it sort of got muddled a little bit. And so I have these different colors meaning different things, different areas of my life. So yellow would be an editorial calendar for blogging. Orange and red mean different things as it relates to coaching or You Are Here. Green also means the Dimple life. It wasn't super intuitive. And because I have different tracks of ways to know that I'm making progress for each of these different facets of my business, all of these headers didn't really make sense either. So then I started creating it in terms of buckets. So I needed to do something specifically for emails, specifically for my member portal, specifically for payments, marketing, membership, all of this. And it just got really busy and it wasn't making sense for my needs. So then what I would do is I would create also a Google spreadsheet. And so then with the Google spreadsheet, this is how I would keep track of just content because content was getting lost in this Trello board.
So I created a different month view for each month. And over here on the side, I would map out, okay, am I putting anything in my feed, in my stories, IGTV, whatever. And that's how I would keep track of things. But things constantly change and it just wasn't super intuitive. I love the ability to just like drag something over and the date changes anywhere. And you can't really do that within Excel or Google Sheets. So this method just definitely didn't work for me. And it was hard to keep this updated as well as the Trello board updated. And I also use Google Docs for specific things around brand requirements, sponsorship requirements, brainstorming notes. And so everything was just all over the place that this method just didn't scale for me. So that's why I decided to go over to Notion. So I just started using Notion and I have really been loving it. It is a brand new system for me. What I've noticed so far is that it definitely gives me a very good comprehensive overview. I have to dig in a little bit deeper and use this on my day-to-day to really see where I need to make modifications. But so far, this has been really, really great. So basically what I have here is a homepage dashboard that you can customize yourself. Up at the top here, I have sort of my main pillars. So I have the Dimple Life, which is my social media and blog. You Are Here, which is my virtual wellness community. Coaching, which is where I'm going to put one-on-one client information, as well as any corporate wellness workshops that I put together or community workshops that I put together. It's all going to live here. And then I have a little bucket here for personal. I'm not quite sure yet if I'm going to put personal in here or just leave this strictly business, but it's here for now as a placeholder. So what you'll notice under each of these is something called action. And there are other things like programming or health, but it basically links out to a different page within my Notion platform or account. And here you can see a little arrow that says TDL task list. So basically it is, the arrow signifies a relationship. So it is relational to a page called TDL task list, which is the Dimple Life task list, and so on for programming as well. For You Are Here, that's a separate page that I just linked to. So if you actually click through here, it will take you to the actual task list for the Dimple Life. So I just put a couple of things up here just for an example. So for example, a to-do could be going over my 2020 finances so that they're ready for my accountant. So I have things like identifying categories for my credit card purchases and inputting that into QuickBooks, pulling up a profit and loss sheet for QuickBooks just so I have a general idea of where things are at. Also looking into website hosting, and what I'm currently working on is a rebranding. So I need to complete a branding questionnaire. And I just have these separate buckets that are split up into a board view, which is called a Kanban board. And it's very similar to Trello, which I like. So this is sort of just a very basic overview of all the tasks that I will need to complete for the Dimple Life. So when you go back to home, I can do the same for You Are Here. I can do the same for coaching and also any personal to-dos that I have. Under here for You Are Here, I have 2021 programming. So this is where I basically list out all of the programs that I have scheduled right now for next year. When I click through this, I'm actually going to blur out some of the information, but what you can see here on this spreadsheet is essentially the name. You can customize all these headers. I have the live date, so when it's actually scheduled, the time it's scheduled for. Tags is something that's really important to me because I really want to be balanced in terms of the programming that I offer. So I want to make sure it's a good, healthy balance between all the different pillars that I have within the community. Status is if it's 100% confirmed with the speaker. I can also put pending when I'm still waiting for confirmation. And then reached out is just I opened the lines of communication and I'm waiting to see if the speaker is interested in connecting. Sponsor is really just if something is sponsored or if there is a partnership with a brand, I'm going to list it out here. Social media handle of the speaker, as well as the registration link that people can use to actually register for the event. Past that, I have something where I track social assets. I want to make sure that I'm always tracking to make sure that I create the social assets to promote each speaker and each event. So that is the 2021 programming spreadsheet that I have listed in my dashboard. Now, below here is my master content calendar, and it looks pretty simple, but I am telling you, this took hours and hours. And thankfully, there was a YouTube video that I found that helped me understand how to link databases. And I will actually link that YouTube video in the description because I want to make sure that people know how to do this. It will literally save you hours. So definitely check that out if that's something of interest to you. The reason why that is important is because there are different templates that I have associated with each database. So for YouTube, I have a specific template that I've used that I created under a YouTube page. I have a specific template that I used for the Dimple Life blog that I created under a separate database page. And so because everything was separated, it was becoming really difficult for me to be able to see a master overview. I really wanted to get a bird's eye view into what my calendar looks like so that I can appropriately plan. So I'm going to walk through each of these. So when it comes to the Dimple Life blog, the template that I use is pretty basic. It's actually not, I don't even know if I can call it a template yet because it still needs to be really customized, but I do just want to show you what I have. So when you actually open this up, it opens up into this pop-up, or you can click open as a page and it opens up as a page. And so here you put the title of the blog post that you're thinking, what status it is. So whether it is an idea, whether you're writing it, whether it is past writing and now you're into visuals where you need to attach images to that blog post. And there's also editing, and it can also just be done. So this is the live date that I'm hoping to get this post up by. There are specific tags that I want to basically recycle over and over again. So there are certain content topics and content pillars that I'd like to make sure that I'm always addressing. Resilience has been a huge theme in my life, and I feel like I want to speak more about that so that others can build up resilience for themselves. And down below here, you can actually put in any kind of note that you want. I recently wrote a published article on Mind Body Green, and so I want to be able to reference this because it does talk about resilience, and I can definitely pull a lot of information from there. So that is what the Dimple Life blog template looks like. Not super robust, but I know that I'm going to be customizing in the future. So when you go into my YouTube, though, this is something that is actually super interesting because I got this template from Ali Abdal, who has amazing content on productivity and systems and all of this. He's a medical doctor. He's a YouTube influencer. He's a just online celebrity in a lot of ways. He just does it all, and it's very aspirational. So I like to try to adopt some of the things that he mentions. And one resource that he actually offered to his community is his Notion template when it comes to creating YouTube videos. So let me open this up, and I simplified his version, and his version was actually a simplification of Thomas Frank's Notion template version. So mine is just like the really, really modified version. But essentially, it's very similar to the blog template up here in terms of status, which database it's from, the live date that I want to put up, if there's a sponsor, and when I actually publish something, like what is the final URL so that I always have it for easy reference. And then also, again, which tag do I want to associate this video to, like which content pillar? And for me, entrepreneurship is a really big one. So that is something that I tagged for this. Now down below, this is where some of this information looks really like robust, but it is just so helpful. It can feel a little overwhelming, but when you actually dive in, there's so much good information. So in his template that he created, he has titles and thumbnails. He has this note here to come up with a minimum of 10 titles. And I think it's just really good because a lot of times, especially for me as a new YouTuber, I have noticed that I will just kind of go with whatever comes to mind, but there's definitely so many different ways in which I can actually communicate the intent of the video. So it kind of just gets you to creatively think about what's your actual topic. So these are just some that I came up with. For thumbnail, this is where I actually list out anything that I might need to create a good thumbnail. My thumbnails are super basic right now. I'm trying to learn a little bit more in terms of how I can create more engaging thumbnails, but this is just these are just some notes that I wanted to put in around what assets I would need for the thumbnail itself. Under notes here is anything that I mention or reference in the video. So for example, I mentioned that Americans spend an average of 2.5 days each year looking for lost items. And I read that on this news article. So I'm linking this here just because I want to be able to pull a screenshot of this and or link it in my description so that people know where I'm coming from. And I always reference things wherever possible. Down below here, he has something called Tell the Story. And this is really great because it gets you to be a better, stronger storyteller. That's an area that I'm really learning to focus on. So he has these really good questions to get you thinking. So who is the character? What do they want? Why can't they get what they want? And so on and so forth. So the character for this video is me as an entrepreneur, and also Notion to some degree is the character as well. Well, what do I want? People like me maybe want to get digitally organized before the new year. Why can't they get what they want? There are so many inefficient processes in place, and so on and so forth. Moving over here to the right side, there is the branding component, and I haven't done a ton with this. Actually, everything in here is from his template. So it's not even my values, my icons, my anything. So I have to kind of spend a little bit of time in each of these to customize it to my specific areas. But it is really good just to have certain branding components so people know what to expect when they come to your channel or come to your brand. And then down below here, he has something called Highs Framework. And this is essentially the hook. How are you going to get people to watch your video? The intro, what is your actual intro? This is his intro here. Obviously, I'm not Ali and I'm not a doctor based in the UK. So this is where I can put some of my basic intros on how I want to introduce myself to everyone in each video. What's the value? What is my end screen sales pitch? So you always want to have a CTA when it comes to closing out a video. Do I want someone to leave a comment? Do I want someone to sign up for an email address, view another video? Like, what is it that I'm actually asking for? I think it's super important to always remember. And then also down below here is just a checklist of things that you need for a YouTube video: description, tag, so on and so forth. How are you promoting it? And then rinse, recycle, repeat. So a big thing for me is working smarter, not harder for this next year. So this is recycling this video content, turning it into a blog post, turning it into a LinkedIn post, turning it into content on other platforms. So I'm not constantly having to reinvent the wheel. So I know that was a ton of information. There is a ton of information in this template, but once you get a template that works for you, you can see how easy it is to then free up some mind space to actually work on what matters for your business, whether it's creativity, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, whatever that might be for you. When you have a template that works for you, it kind of guides your brain to think in the way that you want it to. So that is this template. And I don't need to go through all the rest of them, but you get a pretty good idea in terms of how this type of format can really be helpful. I do like this table view because you can see everything, especially across different databases and different platforms, where your content is, especially if it's down to a live date, or if you're working with a specific sponsor or the status on anything. You can see everything really clearly there. However, there's another view that is really, really good, and that is the calendar view. So once you have certain live dates set for content, you can actually see everything all in one place here. And it is so helpful to be able to view everything all on one page. You can see exactly how much you're producing, where there might be any gaps, and you can adjust accordingly. So let's say this was my final content calendar, and obviously there's nothing that I'm coming out with in this month or in this week, as you can see, the 22nd through the 25th. So then what I could do is, okay, instead of launching maybe 2 things on one day, maybe I can spread it out so that it's a little bit more consistent. And because I changed the dates for each of these, it's actually going to change when I go back to that master table view as well. So it's just super intuitive. It's really great to be able to just see everything from a bird's eye view. When it comes to this sort of master calendar view, it's really helpful when everything is listed. However, what I did specifically was I created YouTube specific views. So this is a YouTube board view. When I have an idea and it gets out of idea phase and it goes into a writing in progress phase, it's all very intuitive. You can also view your blog board view as well. So this is my blog board view where I have some ideas. I need to put it down through the pipeline, and that's what this looks like. So you can definitely see how customizable it can be, and that's all through the filters here. So I only pull my blog database, so only my blog information is shown here. And that is essentially how I have created this home dashboard. As you can see, it changed over to the Dimple Life blog board view because that was the last view that I had put my calendar on, but it's very easily changeable to whatever view that you want. And for me, maybe this content calendar view makes the most sense because then at a glance every single day, I can see like, okay, on this day, I am going to put out this content. And it's just so easy to be able to create a better content framework for myself.
So hopefully that was helpful to you. I wanted to be a little bit more transparent in terms of one struggle that I was really dealing with when it comes to entrepreneurship, which was just getting organized and finding a system that felt efficient for me. And so this is one way I think is going to help me. If you have any comments on this method, if you have a method that works for you, please let me know in the comments below. I love learning about efficiencies and productivity and all of that, just because I want to make sure that I'm spending my energy and my time in the most effective way that actually replenishes me. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this video, and until next time, I will see you next week. Bye.